the best problems to solve are the problems that nobody else knows is a problem. So you always just have to sort of, you know, just always let the wheels be spinning, right? Entrepreneurship and business, you measure the results in dollars. Now, hopefully you're not selling cigarettes and you're doing something noble, which, you know, fitness and exercise is, but it really is, you're keeping score with dollars, because that's sort of the whole point of business, right? And it's a 24/7, 7-day-a-week competition. So it's always on, and someone over there is going to be working harder than you unless you're willing to work harder than them. And nobody is that much smarter than everybody else that they can get away with sort of coasting and being easy. Hit, 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 hit. Build on that, build on that, build on. Yeah! That's gonna serve you. Pull it back. Oh, bring it back.
So we're here in San Diego at the lab with the founder of the WeckMethod, inventor of the Bosu balance trainer. His influence has reached millions of people across the globe. He's been helping people for more than 25 years, from world-class athletes to disabled individuals, regaining the ability to walk. He's also put me through my paces, and I'm already starting to ache in places I've not ached for years. We welcome to the Escape Your Limits podcast, Mr. David Weck.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's great to be speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us in this location. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah. It's the laboratory where we sort of gestate on the concepts, incubate them, and then, you know, test, vet, and then be able to bring out and launch, you know, to the world the next things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So without this space, I don't think we'd be where we are.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I'm sure probably most people have heard of the Bosu.
Yeah.
How many people have heard of the man behind it? I'm not sure, but what would be good is to give us a bit of history, you know. So where did it start for David Weck? You know, tell us a bit about those early days.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I was an athlete all my life, but I wasn't the world-class athlete. I trained with the same intensity.
Right.
And I played football in high school and football in college, and that was my main passion. And when I graduated college, I wasn't going to be a football player, and I got very good grades at a very good school, so I could have worked at the bank or something like that and made money. But sort of the existential dilemma of what do I want to do with my life, that fast approach, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know. And I made the leap, and I said, well, I'm going to be an actor. Right. So I moved to New York City. I was from New Jersey, so I was very close to it anyway. And I just jumped in as an actor.
Why an actor? Was that a family thing, or?
No, certainly not. It was basically just the personal angst and self-exploration, and I have a bipolar, what you'd call bipolar disorder.
Right.
That I didn't know what I had. I just knew that I liked to get drunk every Saturday night. That was my medication.
That's got to be being a teenager, isn't it?
Well, from 13 till 30, I got drunk every Saturday night.
Right.
If I missed one, that was a missed opportunity, right? So I basically, just self-exploration.
Right.
It's sort of, you be your own psychologist, you become an actor.
Okay.
Method acting. So to make money, I was a personal trainer.
Right.
I discovered rollerblading, which is like just such a beautiful, like effortless power through Manhattan, which is basically an entire roller rink. Everything's paved. So I do things intensely, whatever I do. And so I rollerbladed exclusively for about 6 years, where I didn't walk for 6 years. And the result was my feet got extremely weak, and the weakness of my feet led to a back injury.
Right.
So the back pain was because my feet were so weak, and I didn't put two and two together at that time. I didn't know that was the cause. And I was in agony for a year, and finally I discovered the stability ball.
Right.
And
why did you decide to rollerblade for 6 years? Was it a challenge, or?
Well, it was just pure bliss to just move with speed and have no effort.
Right.
And New York, and it was like being in a three-dimensional video game, like charging down 9th Avenue, like, in between the cars, and hanging onto the taxi and jumping over the trash can, and hockey stopping when the car comes. I was really good at it.
Right.
And just that joy of being able to, like, when I would walk, it would just be like so painfully slow. It's like, I gotta, you know. And rollerblade, it's cheap and you can fly.
Right.
Like if I'm going north-south, I'm gonna probably hang on to something to go fast. And if I'm going east-west, I'll beat a taxi cab because I don't have to stop, right? So I could get everywhere very fast, and I just loved it.
Right.
So injured my back, and basically the stability ball was the salvation. And when I started standing on the stability ball, that's when the feet started getting very strong, and that's when it really started to sort of, my back started feeling better.
Right.
But the risk and reward ratio for standing on a ball, the risk far outweighs the reward at some point in time.
Right.
For some people sooner than others. And
what, just on that, sort of standing on a stability ball, I know you like back in, I guess, sort of the late 90s, and when stability balls came out, people were doing all this sort of cookie stuff, you know, standing on it. What's and I know nowadays people are criticizing trainers that do all these crazy things, standing on balls and lifting weights. What's your view on that?
Okay, so there's the pendulum swings in directions, and the pendulum always swings too far, and then it always swings too far back. Right. So, you know, instability is not the devil, right? There's a place and value for a certain amount of it, but standing on a ball is really not a great exercise. It's more a feat.
Right.
And if you're a ski jumper who can do flips in the air and land 80 miles an hour, okay, well, then you want to be able to stand on a ball.
Right.
In fact, you want to be able to bounce off a trampoline bounce and do a flip and land on a ball.
Right.
Right? Because you're going to need that kind of coordination and that kind of certainty of your body control to be able to do it for real. Okay? So in that case, it's good. Most people, it's not worth it. But Laird Hamilton, right? You know, you're going to surf a 60-foot wave? You best believe, you know, get on that thing and start, you know, training that kind of ability to deal with the danger. Most people, absolutely not. Athletes, no, not necessary. The Bosu Ball fits into this equation because it's misunderstood. Because what makes the Bosu Ball special is the quote-unquote instability with the perfect stability. I don't use a Bosu Ball with the platform side up, okay? I don't use it because, okay, great, what am I doing? The dome side up is what's special because now I have this elastic resistance that I can commit all of my weight to. And the problem with an unstable surface like a ball or like elastic cushions or these kind of things is they don't have the inherent stability that you can commit to.
Right.
So your nervous system is like on guard and the tension's rising up all the time on these unstable devices, and therefore it's not useful training stimulus.
Right.
You have to devote 10,000 hours to be able to make it a useful training stimulus, right? You need to be Laird Hamilton or something, right? So for most people, you're getting a stimulus that's counterproductive for movement, whereas the Bosu Ball, it's not unstable. When the dome is up, it's very stable. There's an undulating surface that's changing the force vectors all the time and making the feet incredibly strong and ankles bulletproof, right? And now we know that if you compress it, it creates the geometry that creates skeletal transmission of centerline strength, and with the speed of acceleration of elastics that makes you better on the ground immediately. Right? It took me 17 years after inventing the original to figure that out. But the lumping everything together and you know, I never play on a, you know, I play on a stable surface. Why would I ever, you know, train on an unstable surface or a dome surface? Well, do you play with a barbell on your back, right? Do you play with dragging a sled? Do you play doing a lot of useful things in the training room that are a stimulus that provides a certain training response that is going to serve you on that flat surface? The answer is yes, right? So lumping things together, people like to lump things together, and they come to things with a certain bias where, you know, if you're into strong, generally you're not into coordination.
Right.
Right? And if you're into coordination, maybe you're not into strong.
Right.
It's really the integration of the best of both worlds. I'm all for being strong. We have a deadlift that, you know, if you can lift 700 pounds, great. I want you to lift 750 if you can, right? Because that gives us more to work with.
Right.
But I also want the intricate, nuanced subtlety and coordination.
Right.
And I have a Chinese medicine background. So I went to Chinese medical school. I went to China. I studied Tai Chi for years and years and years, a very high level. And the softness and the Feldenkrais type approach, I don't know if you know who Feldenkrais was. So Feldenkrais was contemporary of Ida Rolf and the Rolfing and the structural integration. He had something called functional integration.
Right.
And the idea is that you reduce the effort to a minimum so that you're able to discern the difference and the differential of gradations of force. So if I'm carrying a piano and a fly lands on the piano, I don't know. But if I'm carrying a feather and the fly lands, all of a sudden I know.
Right.
Right? And so if you know and you can feel, now you can figure out.
Okay.
And what you want to do is you always want to face force, and you never want to have sort of a resistance against anything but the line, right? I want to have the perfect relationship to bang right here, and anytime the vector changes, if I'm resisting, well, now it finds me and I'm not on it.
Right, okay.
I want that with the ground, I want that with my opponent, I want that with the ball, I want that. And it takes a subtlety of understanding to be able to do that.
Right.
And so if you're a grit your teeth, bigger, faster, stronger person who doesn't appreciate that athletes need the soft side too to be stronger and more powerful to express it, well, now you cut yourself off.
Yeah.
And
it's a bit like what we were doing earlier, where you sort of told me to sort of relax whilst I was holding the pose.
Yeah, right. Well, like the pulsars are a perfect example, right? The pulsars, what we want with the pulsars, we want an instant, we want like all strength directed toward the event, and then we want to let it ride for free. If we restrict the free, well, now we're not getting it. So that's sort of the balance of the tension and relaxation.
Right.
And so we want to polarize those things.
Okay.
The fastest athletes in the world, they're like slow to get up off the couch. They move slow, you know what I mean? But they can turn it on and go 100. So they go 0 100. Most of us are stuck at 65%.
Right.
You can't go all out and you can't relax and you're stuck, right? So I don't know, and I'm not sure if I'm answering the question fully.
No, that's fine. So you was a personal trainer.
Yeah, I was a personal trainer. Hurt my back. I basically was standing on the ball doing the hard approach, where jumping from one ball to another ball, and then the soft approach, where I was doing like close your eyes and tilt your head, right, to feel, right? And I wiped out both ends of the spectrum.
Right.
But when you're trying to relax and let the tension drop in a dangerous situation like that, and you close your eyes and tilt your head, well, now when you fall and you're not bracing to protect it, it's scary. So I landed on my butt, I did a backflip, and I landed from one side of my 200 square foot apartment to the other, and I started kicking my legs just to make sure I could still do that. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm scared, I'm terrified, I'm not gonna keep going in that direction. And then I had a dilemma, like, wait a minute, my feet are getting strong, my back is feeling better, what am I gonna do if I'm not gonna do that which is making it better? And then the magic, what if, ... what if I cut the ball in half? And instantly I shot up out of bed. It was about 1 a.m. and I'm just like, I just started thinking about money.
Yeah.
What if I cut the ball in half? Whoa! And I was the, intensive guy who had 7 stability balls in my little 200 square foot studio.
When you say money, what do you mean you started thinking about money?
I started thinking about making a lot of money.
Right. Okay.
Because I've always, money's, aside from your time and your energy, your health, your family and your friends, those are what matters.
Right.
And then the next most important thing is money.
Right.
Because money helps you do all those things better, right? The rich man buys his time, the poor man works his time.
Right.
Right? So I like, more money rather than less money is better, right, in my opinion. But it's lifestyle and your time and energy, that which you do. So I could have worked on a bank and made a lot of money, but I would have been miserable.
Right.
So I'll take the time and what I'm doing over the money. So the Bosu Ball was the perfect sort of confluence of, I can do what I love to do and I can make a lot of money.
Right.
And so I recognized that opportunity. And so for anybody out there listening who sort of has that entrepreneurial bug, right, you need to be able to recognize opportunity and then seize upon it when it presents. Because It's not every day that you say, what if I cut the ball in half?
No.
And
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but what? Because there's lots, as you know, in the industry, there's lots of different fitness products out there that are going to do some stuff.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them, probably more fail than what succeed. Even decent ideas. What gave you the self-belief to know that was going to be successful?
Yeah. Well, I'm a good enough athlete that I can feel the truth.
Right.
All right. So if it's making me better, well then have a pretty good gut feel that, okay, yes, this works.
Right.
And I come from a background where I've squatted 500 pounds to the parallel. I ran a 4.640. I dunked the ball, and then I got there through hard work, not necessarily the genetic capacity to just come out of the womb and do that. So I've always been a student of training, a student of movement. And again, the Bosu Ball, the unique thing about it is it's always directing you away from center, but your nervous system can commit fully to it. So you get to be able to transmit force through your body onto this elastic surface that's giving you this rebound that is a very powerful training stimulus for bulletproofing the interface. You're making your feet ridiculously strong and your ankles ridiculously coordinated and strong. Because part of the problem with the ankle sprains, in which I had a big issue with, I taped my feet every single day in college. Practicing games, I taped the ankles. Because proprioceptively, my ankle was tricky, which meant the ligaments were already stretched out. So just below my nervous system understanding awareness, my ankle would hang like that. My foot would hang there. And so now it's ready to trip and fall. Now it's ready to trip and get twisted. So I had to have the tape to give me the proprioceptive ability to not let it get in a bad position in the first place.
Right.
Now on the dome or the Bosu Ball, you're getting this inversional bias. So you're strengthening the anti-inverters, but you want to be inverted at ground contact because the fourth and fifth metatarsals are the strong part of the foot that leverages the power of the heel that connects to the posterior forward in the foot. Right. So on the diagram that I have, the green dots on that diagram, that is the athletic sweet spot where an athlete's going to initiate ground contact. And what we call it at WeckMethod is running the rails. You need the fourth and fifth metatarsals. That's the rail. You can't go over the rail, but you got to get the rail, right? So when people talk about heel strike, midfoot strike, forefoot strike, it's like, what are you talking about? It's a spiral strike, right? It's not this, don't define it as heel, mid, and fore. Define it as green dot. That's your deal, where you want to get green dot and then roll through to first and go off big toe, right? So the Bosu Ball just does that.
Right.
And I can feel that. And then it's just good leverage for a bunch of different core exercises. It's fantastic for ballistics because, again, that effect of the ability to land not quite perfect but still be productive, right?
Yeah.
So now you trip but you don't fall as an athlete. And there's that subtle reaction time has a limit. So 0.16 seconds or whatever the ratio is from gun goes off, there's a delay in your nervous system before it can interpret and do something. The reaction response, we have a lot of control over that. So when I'm on that unique surface of the stable, unstable, the dome, my nervous system's learning how to just send force. I can load faster from having trained on a Bosu Ball than having not trained on a Bosu Ball.
Right.
So I could take that bigger, faster, stronger that I developed with the squats or the deadlifts or whatever else, and now I could send it through faster.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
which is athletically very valuable, because now I'm only 0.16 seconds behind, as opposed to the other person who's like 0.23 seconds behind because tension rose up in their body.
Right. So coming back to that point then, so you had this idea, you felt that it was helping you, you knew it was helping you.
Right.
And for that reason you thought, because I guess you'd never invented a product before, this is the first one,
Well,
was
no,
it?
that's not true. As a personal trainer, I invented a whole bunch of things, but I never really saw the market potential. I mean, invented. I went to the store and I bought like a water skiing handle, right? Had a rope, and I would tether it to the door and stuff like a TRX, right? Way back in the day. But I never saw like the big opportunity there. Right? So Randy Hetrick, who started TRX, he had a vision, and he had sort of like, okay, thing is programming based, and it's the portability of it. I can do all these different angles and stuff, different percentage of body weight by cantilevering with this thing. He saw the market potential in that, right? That was an entrepreneurial opportunity that I did not see.
Right.
So if you had given me straps, I wouldn't have done what he did.
No.
Because I didn't put that together.
Right.
But with the Bosu Ball, just inherently, I knew the metrics on the sales of balls at that time. And you had like 2 to 3 million balls being sold in the US annually at that time, because we were at the crest of the movement where everybody had a stability ball. Go to a conference and there's like 7 different vendors selling 7 different balls, and oh, there's a session with 300 balls in it, right? You go to a conference now, you're lucky to find, a few, right? They're not in vogue anymore, right? But they're starting to come back a little, the pendulum. But so I knew the metrics on it, I knew the inherent value on it, and I knew that I would have a proprietary product. So I would be able to patent and protect this thing very solid.
Yeah.
So that's a very important, the IP in terms of your trademarks and your patents are extremely important, so that you're not the pioneer who comes over and takes all the arrows, and then the people come behind you and
knock you
use
off.
the idea to make another money.
Yeah.
So
because obviously I know that in the business, but most people generally, I was on a call the other day actually with someone who had an idea, and most people don't do that. Where did you get that from? Did you just read about it? Did you have a mentor that helped you get it off the ground, or?
Well, I think I came from an experience where I've always been type A, very driven. I'm going to do everything I can to win, but I've also had the benefit of the family support of my parents and my father having the wherewithal to catch me if I fell. Right. So I didn't pay for my own college. I had zero debt out of college. And rather than go make money after college, I said, hey, Dad, I'm going to be an actor. God bless you. Go for it, right? So I'm going to take this, whatever, $90,000 education, whatever it added up to back in that day, and I'm going to go make no money now, right? So most people might not have that same opportunity.
No.
So I had the ability to take chances and always pursue my passion. I have so far in my life been so fortunate as to I have never had to compromise from pursuing my passion. So I could play football and make that the most important thing, not go on family vacations. You guys go to the Grand Canyon. If I miss 2 weeks, that's 4 leg workouts that, that I won't be able to eat all the food because I care so much about football, right? And then coming out, I cared so much about just my own psyche. What the hell? My whole life was just, what's next year? It's sophomore year. Okay, well, what's next year? Junior year. I'm going to play football. I'm going to drink beer. I'm going to chase girls. Life is great. I'm going to cover my ass with honors grades so that when I graduate this place, I'll go make money. And I wasn't really thinking ahead. So I was just sort of focused on what I was doing.
Right.
And so the recognition, the Bosu Ball came after 10 hard years of busting my ass, not making a lot of money. Right. Starting to seriously think, I'm approaching 30 years old here, and I'm not exactly in the financial position that I want to be in.
Right.
Right? I made 40 grand as an actor, and I made my cash money as a trainer to survive, but
And that was so in your 20s, that was really a bit of acting, which was your passion, making your money with the personal training. That was kind of...
Yeah, the personal training was the survival, and it was, again, you're in your own destiny. The personal training as a young man in your 20s is great because you're a hunter-gatherer who goes out, you get a nice meal every day, you train 7 people, and okay, you know what I mean? Got some good cash here.
Yeah.
But there's no leverage in it.
Right.
What
do you mean by leverage?
So leverage is if 4 clients decide to go away for Christmas and someone moves away and the other person gets sick, there's a big kink in the garden hose now.
Right.
Your cash, your 7 sessions turned into 1 session. So, and you're not in control of that. And your 7 sessions by definition can't turn into 14 sessions, can't turn into 28 sessions, can't turn into, and on and on and on. So there's no leverage in it. So your time is your money.
Yeah.
And so if you get sick or you get hurt or somebody else moves or whatever, then, bang, you've got an instant diminution in income.
Right.
So structuring leverage is the trainer who creates a business where it's always win-win for the sustainable stuff, right? So if you create a business where you can attract trainers who can now get clients and you're helping them provide an income, you're taking some portion of every session there because it's a win-win, well, now you have leverage.
Yeah.
And then you can open another location and you can do this and you can write books and you can sell your DVDs and you can make products, and so you can make money when you're sleeping.
Yeah. Did you realize that then after a while to think, okay, now I need to sort of get leverage, or was it just a natural evolution?
Well, in a sense, acting is sort of leverage because if you do a commercial and that's a national commercial, the guy who said, can you hear me now at Verizon, who's now saying, hey, Sprint's better, That guy's set for life, right? Jared from Subway, who's just turned out to be a pedophile, like he's got a lot of money in the bank even if he's in prison. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? So you can make a ton of money if you hit it as an actor, right? So that was chasing the leverage in a sense, because of the media and the distribution of it, your exposure. Everybody knows who Matt Damon is, right? There's nobody who doesn't know, and if they know your name, well, and they're going to go see the movie because of you, well, there's leverage in that. It's like, Born 2, Born Identity 3. Well, guess what? If we're going to make that, I need a little bit more money. So that's sort of the game you're playing. So I always knew that, I always wanted to end up with a lot of money. I just didn't want to have to compromise what I do to make it. Right? And now I thank my lucky stars I didn't make as an actor. Because an actor, you get trapped too. I mean, I don't want to be an actor. I want to be a director. I want to be behind the camera. So the Bosu Ball just was like a spark, a flash of inspiration, and then the recognition a nanosecond after that this thing is going to be a product that people use all over the world, and they actually use it. Because there's two kinds of fitness products. There's the gazelle trainer that's going to sell 7 million units on TV while you bang the drum and stoke the fire with tons of money, and it's black because you got the sales, but as soon as you sell 7 million of those, nobody else in the world's ever going to buy another one. Right? The thing goes away. And how many gazelles were sold and how many gazelles are being used? Right? The percentage is probably close to 100% who are being currently used right now. With a Bosu Ball, because it succeeds in a commercial environment, the physical therapist will actually use it. Childhood development will actually use it. People in the gym will actually use it. So it sustains, and it becomes what we call an evergreen. That means that, and one of the problems with the Bosu Balls, they last so damn long that, there's people who have a 14-year-old Bosu Ball. It's like, well, I don't need to buy another one. That thing works fine. Oh, geez, So, but at some point in time, that facility will want another Bosu Ball to replace the Bosu Ball. Right? So it's like a bench in your gym or a dumbbell, right? Eventually they're going to have chips on them. You're going to buy another. Right? So having an evergreen product, I recognized in that instant that this was going to be an evergreen. And used by millions. And then the generational, because if I use it now, my kid's going to use it. So I recognize, because I'm a long-term guy. I'm a value guy. I'm a simple guy. And I suck at marketing. One time I went to a commercial agent, and this guy's like, first of all, why is your hair so long? I'm like, because I like it that way. He's like, well, it's less marketable. I'm like, all right, well, if I have to cut it for a job, I will. And he's like, so how do you, how do you think you can do selling a product? I'm like, well, if I believe in the product, then I can be great at selling it. That's the wrong answer as an actor. You know what I mean? You got to be able to sell anything if you're an actor, right? So I came at it very green and honest that way, but that's just me. If I believe in it, like I know it, then I can sell it. So that's what the Bosu Ball was for me.
And what, because again, it sounds so easy. You had this idea, you knew it was going to work, and it obviously, looking back, it was successful. But what was sort of one of the defining parts of going from an idea, because we've launched lots of products, and as I said, lots of them don't go that well, even fantastic ones. What do you think was the tipping point that really kind of made it work?
Well, I think the idea in and of itself is a brilliant concept, right? It allows you to do so many things, and at a fundamental nervous system level, it's providing a benefit at the most fundamental level. But women in their mid-40s can jump up and down and sweat, which is great for selling them at Target and making it a fitness product, right? So you have to decide, there's training and there's exercise, and the lion's share of the market is exercise. So the training is the high-level stuff, the very serious stuff. The very, very small percentage of the population is interested in the training, and then you have exercise. And the Bosu Ball works in both of those. So the way that I the will to do it, number one most important ingredient. Come hell or high water, this is working no matter what. I will do whatever it takes to work, right? And I worked all the time. I didn't have a relationship at the time. I was all in everything. And so knowing that, you got 3 basic trains that have to leave the station. You got the IP, you got the manufacturing, and then you got the marketing, okay? So manufacturing, the IP, you need to get that in order, right? Your patents filed, your trademark, like you need to have that, right? You can't really press go until you're patent pending.
Right.
Because now you're risking all sorts of things. So that one you have to get your ducks in a row, and you keep it top secret during that. You're testing it, you're working it, right? You're working on the manufacturing very carefully. You know, but once you're patent pending, bang, now you can really send out the marketing and send out the manufacturing. The manufacturing is going to take a long time for that to arrive at the station, because you got to design it, you got to test it, you got to do this, measure twice, cut once, and you know it takes a while to go from like the paper to the actual product. Now, fortunately, I could build a Bosu ball by hand in 6 hours. So I could buy a stability ball, I could cut it in half, I could wrap it around a piece of wood, and you know, do all the things necessary to seal it up and make sure that it works. And it took about 6 hours, and I could do that. And I did that hundreds of times. I had a whole workshop where I built them. You know, 4 horsepower router that's cutting circles, right? And you know, just going at it, right? And that allowed me to launch the marketing train now.
Right.
So before I'd even kicked off really on the manufacturing, I already had a prototype. Like the prototype arrived the next day after the idea. Cancel everything, go out to New Jersey, go to Home Depot, build it, next day, inflate it, okay, great, it works. Test it with all my clients, okay, great. Now, get the patent pending, boom. I'm building these things, and I sold it. U.S. ski team, first sale. You got to validate at the top of the mountain.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'm going up to Red Bull on Friday to see a guy named Per Lundstrom, who I met at the U.S. ski team. So I got a great relationship with the people in the very beginning. So ski team was the natural first customer because, you know, you got this sort of mogul thing that you could use anywhere, anytime. And I made the first sale. Then they bought 24 more of them instantly.
Right.
And they started sending them all over the world. And so with that in my hip pocket, now I went to the Yankees, who had just won the World Series. I went to the Lakers, they won. I went to the Devils, they had won. And I went to the Rams and the Ravens, because football's sort of that thing where the year and the Super Bowl different times. So what I did was I made the target audience, right? The target customer was the championship teams in the big 4 sports.
Right.
And I don't care what the trainer's name is. All I care is that the byline says head trainer, New York Yankees.
Right.
Right? So, and I just need a testimonial.
So you went sort of biggest names in
biggest
sports.
biggest names in sports, get the validation, get them. And the way I sold it to them was I sold it to them, but I said, listen, here's how this works. I'm going to leave this with you. Here's what you do with it, and then explore. And if you want to keep it, then you pay the invoice. If you don't want to use it, and you're not going to do it, well, then I'll send you a return and you ship it back, right? Won't cost you anything. And, you know, I knew it was compelling, so each one of them actually purchased the device.
Right.
Because there's something about giving something away for free in many cases where there's not a lot of value in that. And it's like, oh, yeah, you know, I'll beg you to try my product and you can have it. Oh, great, thanks. Boom, throw it in the corner.
Yeah.
So this one was one, and again, we were at the crest of that instability
So timing
phrase.
was
Timing
a
was
big
huge. Timing was huge. Because what the timing did was it allowed me to hit the marketplace with the marketing with a duct tape prototype made by hand at a trade show in a 10 by 10 booth where Reebok had this, you know, Reebok had like continents, their booth. I had a 10 by 10, and the core board was their big launch, right? We have launched the core board. And so I walk into this arena, right? And this was back when money was flying.com. So the arenas, you know, this was huge trade show with, you know, everybody putting on the nines. And I go through and there's like a core board. There's a sea of core boards. And I'm walking, it's like, I'm not even going to walk around their booth. I'm walking right through because it's so big, right? And I'm carrying these handmade duct tape, staples, and glue. I come over to 10 by 10 booth. I don't even have a sign. It's like the sign that tells you where it is. That's my sign. I got a TV with a VHS tape playing a loop of all these exercises. I'm not even capturing emails and shit. Like, I'm just like out there banging a drum. I was the most popular booth at the show. And we knew. It was just like, okay, yeah, this thing's going to be huge. Right. So we knew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just the will to do it,
Yeah.
and then the fortunate thing that it was a good idea.
Yeah.
I do inventor consultations, so people, say, okay, we do non-disclosures, all that stuff, and then they share with me the idea, and I look at it and say, okay, well, here's what I would do. And some people I've told them, I said, listen, back to the drawing board, because I'm thinking about building a mold and it's going to cost $50,000, and then I'm like, okay, put on the brakes. I would not do that because I just don't think it's going to sell.
Yeah.
Now, you can do what you want, but you paying me to tell you what I think. This is what I think.
Yeah.
So not every idea is a great idea.
No.
And you have to be very careful that you're able to discern, can you make money? Because if you can't make money, well, then it's a nice project, but is it worth doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the only thing that keeps the music playing and the dance going is the money.
Yeah.
And I've been through,
And you tested, I guess the thing different to what you did than a lot of people is that you mocked up some samples, you had some proof that it worked, you had some people you wanted to buy it.
I had personal training clients all the way from a 7-year-old boy and his mother and father, all the way up to like an 87-year-old man, and a lot of women in their mid-50s in between,
yeah.
right? And another guy. But so I had a full deck of clients, and I brought it to every session.
Yeah.
Every session, and I used it with every client. And I was testing, like, okay, is this useful? You bet it is. Is this useful? You bet it is. So I knew.
So you had a high level of certainty before you even went into that full scale manufacturing of your hand prototypes,
Absolutely.
which I guess is
Absolutely.
a lot of people miss that stage and go straight into
If you get too excited and you don't have like the true understanding of its marketability, well, then you can get into trouble.
Yeah.
And then another area is funding. Like, you have to have enough capital that you're not going to run out of money.
Right.
And that's a trick too, right? So, and the terms with which you can do that, like there's all sorts of sticky stuff on that. I was very fortunate in that I was able to secure an angel investor who did not create onerous terms, tons of freedom, still the majority of the equity my own, but basically a reservoir of $1 million that I could dip to, right? And I didn't go through all that million, because we started making money before that, right? So you want to get to black soon, but you have to understand there is a red period. If the ski team says you can come there next Thursday, you got to buy a flight, and you got to buy a car, and you got to buy a hotel, right? And you got to buy your food, because you best believe that if at 10 o'clock on Thursday next week you got to be in Park City, well then 10 o'clock, you can't hesitate to buy the plane ticket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those things, and the patent costs some money too.
I guess. So what would you say was that there's quite a lot of positive there. What was one of the biggest, I suppose, I'll use the word failure, but what was the biggest failure or disappointment out of that you went through during that period, or didn't you have any?
Well, I would say that I personally died 1,000 deaths as sort of like doing all this work, and then like trying to figure out, like with the patent, like, oh no, like you get your first rejection, and even though that's standard and customary, and you almost want a rejection, because if you get it on the first pass, it's like, well, did I ask for enough? The negotiation, 100, okay, you got it. But those little things where you're just scared that everything's going to implode. Right. Now, I didn't have anything that was sort of kiss of death and things, but I remember being scared of many times where you get that knot in your stomach where, like, oh my gosh, the whole thing's in jeopardy here.
And what was that? When was that? Would you say?
I don't know.
I know I've been through that.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard for me to even recall like the specifics, because for the most part it was just like sort of positive steps.
Yeah.
But I remember sort of dying 1,000 deaths, and then being the impatience of it.
Right.
Here's an example for the U.S. ski team. I wrote a letter, and I crafted the letter for days. I had my father help me edit it. Like, this was the letter, right? I got one opportunity. I send the letter. A week goes by, nothing. 2 weeks goes by, nothing. Like, okay, well, geez, Dad, what do I do? I sent the letter. All right, well, he's like, you got to follow up with a phone call. I'm like, oh Jesus, like, what am I gonna say? And so I was like, Dad, do me a favor, you make the call, right? And he was great on the phone. And back in that day, it wasn't so much the cell phones, you had an office line. And the trick was call, and if it's an answer machine, don't leave a message. It's not like a cell phone where they see the call, right? It's just nobody ever knows it was a call. So he just called and called and called until someone picked up the phone. And what had turned out was the guy I wrote the letter to was no longer even there.
Right.
So a guy had replaced him. Nobody ever even saw this letter. So it was a cold call.
Right.
And he opened the door. But, the angst of waiting for this to happen, like if I can't sell it to the ski team, how am I going to get this thing off the ground? Because if I sell it to, first of all, I didn't have a product where I could make money. It cost me money, more money to build the prototype than it would be that I was selling it for.
Right.
But it was the sale that represented the value and the proof that it can be sold, and it was the marketing, because I have it in use and I have a testimonial for it, right? So those kind of situations where it's like not going your way, and it was.
What keeps you going? What kept you going through those times then?
I think just knowing that I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I'll die trying to make this thing go. Right? I will die trying. I'm willing to push the chips into the center here, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to figure it out some way. Like, I will not fail.
Yeah.
That's the thing that keeps you going.
Right. Okay.
And then you get thrilled by the successes. Like after you sell it to the U.S. ski team, and you're just like, Dad, yeah, we sold it to the ski team, baby, yeah, like that kind of thing. Walking through Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, walking through the catacombs, carrying this prototype. Coming in, seeing Chris Chambliss on a Stairmaster. He's now a coach. He was the first baseman when I was a fan, right? And he's doing his Stairmaster, and we're talking to Jeff Mangold, the strength and conditioning coach, and I'm like, I pump it up, and I'm like, here, and there are two of them, right? Like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. And like, I come out of Yankee Stadium without my Bosu balls, right? Come out, it's like a drizzling rain, and I'm just like, yeah. So those were like the cherished moments that you never forget.
Yeah.
The victories. Yeah.
So what about with that product? It's obviously been around, and with the gym ball had its time, and then I guess we kind of went into a phase with things like CrossFit came along, and so that type of training seemed to be replaced with the barbell and that kind of thing. So how did you sort of keep yourself and your business and your concepts relevant with the changes in the industry?
Well, very interesting, okay? So you have the commercial, professional market, and you have the consumer market. Right. So with Bosu Balls, we sell more Bosu Balls this year than we did last year. We sell more Bosu Balls next year than we did this year. So it's we're still growing with the Bosu Ball, right? And a lot of that sales is consumer driven.
Okay.
That was sort of, it's all from the benefit of what we've done in the commercial market, right? So with regard to the movement to sort of like, just no BS, we're, how many pull-ups can you do and how long, right? Like the CrossFit mentality, which I have a lot of respect for, because it's no nonsense, okay? It's very sagittally based, so, you're not going to necessarily be a better runner from doing exclusively CrossFit, but I got a lot of respect for CrossFit, and I think, it has its fair share of haters, obviously, which, I think if you're successful, then you have haters. So I don't demonize CrossFit. Are there some people who are in CrossFit that don't do good things? Yeah, sure. But is CrossFit bad? No, it's not, right? And overall, it's had a positive effect in just whipping everybody into like, look, let's stop kidding around. We don't need to do this, and that, let's just do real exercise. So they've done that. But what I did with the Bosu Ball was, I'm always thinking like, how can I add value? And then the main thing with it now is the compression strength training, and the realization that it's actually elastic pressure in that unique shape that is the sweet spot, athletically and aesthetically. And it's the CrossFit people who will tend to be anti-Bosu Ball. If you're into like lifting heavy weights, generally speaking, you're not a huge fan of the Bosu Ball if lifting heavy is your big thing. Right. But now, because I can help a CrossFitter or a heavy lifter lift heavier weights, how do we know? Well, The guys who trained for their NFL Pro Day, their bench number went up, you know? It went up from 23 to 27 with 225, right? Oh, they're faster. They jump higher. So you get the genuine results. I have friends, CrossFit owners, who train with the Bosu Ball to prime before they do their snatch, before they do their squat, right? Why? Because it works. So it's figuring out how to take the Bosu Ball, which didn't really have a direct application for that person's needs to lift heavier weights, and then figuring out, oh my gosh, there's a whole untapped well and reservoir here called compression strength training that I even made a new Bosu Ball for it that's very, very high density, firm dome, so the pressure can be like even more intense. And then it's not even unstable because it's like, geez, this thing's so firm, that services them. And why you always have to be out in front in the professional market is because if you lose your relevancy there, then you go away.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the person who buys your product at Target, odds are 6 months from the time they bought it at Target, odds are it's not being used, right? So the more relevancy you can have in the professional commercial market, the more stickiness you have in the consumer market, and the more you're able to now entice and motivate that person who bought it to actually use it.
Right.
Like, I don't want somebody to buy my product and not use it.
No.
And if I had to pick who's going to buy it, I want someone who's going to buy it, who uses it, who has visibility. Because if somebody buys it and they don't use it and it's sitting in a closet, that sale was a black hole. Great, I made X amount of dollars from that one unit and now nothing else. There's no pull from that sale.
Right.
That's the gazelle. Like, that's the doohickey thigh master thingy that, you know, it was here, it went boom, and like a firework, it went psh, and then it came down and it's gone.
So is that something that you've actively tried to do? And I guess you could apply this to different businesses, but is it actively you've focused on how can I stay relevant or ahead of where the market's going so that my business is going to continue to thrive, rather than saying, look, I've got this great product and you just milk it for everything you can?
Well, yeah, I'm not good at the second one. Like, I'm not good at marketing and stuff and selling. Like, I'm not real good at that. If we're sitting around the marketing table, my ideas aren't the best. But what I have always focused on, like, is the value, and then I narrowed down the scope of what it is I was seeking to do, which was to provide the best possible training for balance measured by locomotion.
Right.
So by tethering and anchoring my study and pursuit of balance to locomotion, I had the tangible, like right here, right now, we can measure it with click, click the clock. So there's 100% objectivity to it.
Right.
And if you think about on the board, we have strength and we have balance. Power is the result that we want, power, but strength and balance is what gives us the power.
Right.
Because more power will actually equal more endurance. So we get all the factors, and strength and balance are the two things, the yin and yang, that are everything, strength and balance. Now, if we make an analogy of a chessboard, balance is the king and strength is the queen. The queen is stronger than the king, but the king's more important. Because if we can sacrifice the queen, right? We can make a power play where we sacrifice the queen. We use the strength of our oblique angles here to sucker in that stronger, right? Balance, though, the king, once you forfeit the king, game's over.
Right.
So balance, homeostasis, is the most important thing of anything, because without balance, strength is completely useless.
Right.
Right?
And is that the central philosophy? Like, so is that the sort of timeless pursuit that you go after, and your business is sort of built around that fundamental?
My business, I went to Williams College, a lot of super smart people, CEOs of big companies come out of there, right? I have friends who run big companies, right? I could have marshaled college classmates or Williams alums to say, hey guys, let's build the empire. I got this product, it's going to be evergreen, sell millions of units, let's build the thing, and build my own company. But because I value so much my time and what I'm doing and pursuing my passion, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to take that and license it to create the mailbox money that says, I can wake up today and I can do anything I want to do. And what that does is that gives you a tremendous amount of freedom and leeway to now experiment and go to China, right? Study this, go to Esalen Institute, go up and like do all this stuff that is just, immerse yourself in whatever it is you need to immerse yourself in to dig deeper, right? Take it from different perspectives, understand it, test the theory, right? Whereas if you're plugged in the industry, then it's very hard you can't go into the strength room and say, guys, we're going to test this thing out today. We're going to try this. What's on the whiteboard? Well, I don't know. We're going to do this, right? No. You have to provide that confidence, the security. Like, we're doing this. You do 5 sets of that, then you do 7 of that, and it's like bang, bang, bang. So you really stifle the innovation to iterate different than what's on just the common track. Right? And then, so I had that ability, and then with an end game, because we're dealing with biomechanics here, right? And so with biomechanics, there is an end game with the biomechanics. So, and the high jump is the perfect sport to use as the analogy for the end game. The technique, the Fosbury flop, where you go over the bar and you jump higher because your center of mass doesn't actually have to go over the bar for your body to go over the bar. You can fundamentally jump highest with this technique. There is no other biomechanical strategy that will work without altering the biomechanics or the biology itself.
Right.
So unless you put kangaroo springs in, or unless you put something in, which you'll probably still use the Fosbury flop for, right? You just go higher, we've reached an end game. That's the paradigm, that's how it's done, right? So until you reach some kind of change in medium, change in structure, that's the optimal way to do it. There is no other optimal. And with locomotion, we can get to that. There is optimal. Head over foot, right? Coiling the core, pulsing the arms, not swinging them, is the best you can do.
Right.
You can't do better. And the opportunity now is because the industry doesn't understand it, you have this brace the core model because it's so based on the barbell, and the strong, and I need to brace for strength. My core has to be stable. Well, stiff ain't stable when it comes to movement. Stiff ain't stable. We're dynamic, right? And so all the athletes do this stuff, and so what I was able to do is I was able to say, okay, here's reality. Well, how the hell do I make reality better? As opposed to, I went to the seminar and I told, the book told me this, like, oh yeah, I got to do this, and now I just do this, and it's sort of robotic. So you're not making it better. But balance as measured by locomotion means there's an end game.
Yeah.
In October 2016, I got the end game. Now I know what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And so now I don't dig in other spots because the mother load is under X. So you dig under X, you keep getting more mother load. Why the hell would I dig here? Like, there's 100 ways to use a Bosu ball. I don't care. I use a Bosu ball for compression through my feet, compression through my hands, which you experienced, breathe and brace core, coiling core, and some ballistics. Like I jump rope on it and do things where I can, get the dynamics of the feet. And a little bit, but since I've already done so much of it, it's sort of under my belt of the nuanced balance reflexive. Like, you can brush up on that. So once you know it, right, you know how to find that relaxation and, just boom, 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 you know it, right? So you can, that's like riding a bike. You can always sort of just get back to it fast. Right? With the ballistics, that's the tissue that you're developing, right? That's the ability to load well and transmit force. And compression is the gold mine.
Right.
Compression is I do compression. I do some form of compression just about every day because you don't get, you don't get I can't move sore. You get immediate carryover to better. All right, well, why the hell would I not do it? Right? And then the coiling core, you felt the effects. I can do it with any modality, but it happens that Superman coil is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And if I'm teaching somebody else, the Superman coil is the easiest, most effective way to teach someone. Before I taught you Royal coil, taught you Superman on a Bosu ball. It's just the best way. So that's how I use a Bosu ball.
And
why would I ever squat on a Bosu ball without compressing it?
Yeah.
Like, why would I use a steak knife to open a lock on a door?
Right.
I'll use the key for that, and I'll use the steak knife to cut the steak.
Yeah.
A Bosu Ball, if I'm gonna squat on it, I'm gonna compress on it. If I'm gonna advise you and give you my advice, compress it. Stance, squeeze, spine and shin angle, you can't do better than that, right? So, and I think that's realistic, because when we first started out, again, we were in that craze phase of instability where we could teach an hour-long class with nothing but the Bosu Ball. It's like a bench step, but better, right? Who the hell does that anymore? Who spends a full hour on nothing but the Bosu Ball? Very few people, right?
So you've got. So I guess what with your philosophy, you've got, you've got this sort of, I guess, core mission that you're building everything around of, as opposed to building a product company.
I don't build products. No. Yeah, the product is part and parcel to the product is there to serve a purpose. And I don't care what the product is.
Yeah.
I said to people, like, look, if pink panties made us faster, I'd want 8 sets so I didn't have to do laundry. I could, you know what I mean? Like, I could wear them all week and I could miss Sunday and I still got a fresh pair for Monday. Yeah. Right?
And would you say that's for someone who's thinking about, a trainer or whatever, creating a product? Would you say that really you should go into it with the principles? What is it? And we had that conversation earlier about, what is it you're trying to achieve?
Yes.
First, and then create, if you want, a tool to serve that.
Yeah, it's really, sort of chicken and egg a little bit. Like Bosu Ball was a spark of an idea to solve a problem that was like, okay, and so the idea was born out of necessity, my own personal necessity, and then there was a recognition that, oh my gosh, this has so many other applications than just strengthening the feet, and recognizing the the exercise effect.
Yeah.
Because even when we did that workout that we did, I was threading the needle. I was training you, but I was also exercising you. Right. So if you came here and we weren't sort of showing other people, because most people just want to exercise, and you got to give them that, because they're not geeks like this, right? My brother, just tell me what to do. I got 45 minutes, make it efficient, go, right? I don't care that the myofibrils do what it doesn't matter to me. Just give me the result.
Yeah.
That's most people.
Yeah.
So you can't train them. Oh, well, we got to rest for 5 minutes. Like, no. You got to exercise them. So what I want to do is I want to dovetail that. And I think for anybody out there who's contemplating what a product is, you always have to be open to the opportunity, because you never know when opportunity is going to, when's the light bulb going to click, right? So you always just have to sort of, just always let the wheels be spinning, right? How can you solve problems? And the best problems to solve are the problems that nobody else knows is a problem, right? Because if you can... with the pulsers, I solved the problem that wasn't a problem. People swing their arms, right? Oh yeah, we know how to do it. That's what we want. No. That's a problem, you swinging your arms. What do you mean it's a problem? That's what I was. No, it's a problem. Why is it a problem? Because it's not as fast, it's not as efficient. So that coming from left field, completely unexpected and counterintuitive, is your best bet, because there's a boomerang effect when you can turn the whole thing upside down.
But it was still... You were looking at efficiencies, and then there was a product to improve.
Well, what happened with that was, again, like, since the motivation is the value, and I'm not laying in bed scheming like, what's the product that I can make? I'm thinking about, okay, well, how can I move better? How can I make that more efficient? I can do those things. And so I personally discovered the double down pulse technique back in 2012 or 11. I discovered it. Right? And so I personally did it to the best of my abilities, and I moved real well as a result. But I couldn't teach it to other people. And I didn't really know how to figure out how to teach it or to train it myself better than do it. And I can tell you exactly how you got to snap the finger to keep the DIP joint straight, not flexed. If I flex that, I cut myself off from across the elbow, because the grabbing flexor starts from a muscle here, and the finger flexor starts from muscle across the elbow. Like, I know all the subtlety of it. But again, how do I teach that to someone? And some athlete who's 22 just wants to, they don't care, so they're not going to invest the time. So I couldn't teach anybody to double down pulse other than just a handful of people.
Right.
So what happened on this was just the fortuitous, always be open to the opportunity. I was at the swap meet treasure hunt, and I found this little hand weight, and I'm like, whoa, let me buy these hand weights. I spent $1, and I started pulsing with them. I felt, whoa, that's interesting. Tested all sorts of weights, and then the problem was that the weight made it slow. And there was that amortization between that and that was slowed down by the weight. So I'm sitting there in my house. I'm like, okay, I got these weights and it's interesting. Okay, well, what if I can take the inertia effect out of the weight but still harness the momentum? Oh, I'm a bachelor. I have 20 empty vitamin jars on the shelf and on the whatever, the kitchen table or whatever. So I fill up vitamin things with steel shot, and I go, oh, that's it. Oh my God, this is my best invention ever. It's the biggest thing. Because now the shift means that I get that time in transition where it weighs nothing.
Right.
And so the inertia's gone, and then I get a jolt that's more powerful than if it's the momentum of the mass moving, right? So that one materialized over the course of like 5 years of gestation and using the technique and knowing that it's superior and identifying it in the best athletes like Deion Sanders. Okay, that's what he does, right? That's why he's the best, coupled with his genetics. And then gestate, and then the opportunity sprung in an unexpected place. And then it was like, how do I make that better? Oh, boom. And now it was just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Now I can run faster carrying weights.
Right.
It's the most counterintuitive thing there ever was. But it came from being on X in October 2016. Because the coiling core, that distillation of core training to focus on the lat first and foremost, to get the maximum power and coordination of the spinal engine. All the other muscles are playing too.
Yeah.
So if I snip to the internal oblique or whatever, I'm going to have problems. I'm not going to run very fast, right? But in terms of training, intent, and direction, it's the simplest formula in the world. You keep a central axis here, 9th rib on the side. That's where T12 and L1 is. If you draw the line, you keep that steady. You go shoulder down and back, same side hip up and forward, and that maximizes the coil of the lat.
Right.
The intercostal muscles are important. They're getting in the game too, but it's the lat that we target. The lat that we target, we create immediate carryover, and that coil goes hand in hand with the pulse.
Right.
Because if I'm coiling like that, then the pulse comes much more naturally.
Okay.
And remember when we were running with you,
Yeah.
and you were doing more twist and transverse?
And we'll show that in the
and
video
and I said, stop twisting, right? And when you stop twisting is when now you allowed it to side bend.
Yeah.
Because you were twisting and then it wasn't allowing the side bend.
Yeah. So if people want to, because we're going to,
Yeah.
a couple of questions before we finish off, but if people want to find out about pulsing or the products or your
Yeah.
WeckMethod, where would they go to, find out more information?
Right now, principally, there's two places. There's WeckMethod.com, and we're sort of, catching up with that, with everything on there. And then we have a Facebook. I have two private groups on Facebook.
Right.
They're closed groups, but everybody's welcome.
Okay.
And for me, like, the pulsars didn't exist before August.
Right.
Now the pulsars exist. And now we have mega pulsars, power pulsars, pocket pulsars, and stealth pulsars, right? And I'm designing gloves for the NFL, for soccer, for runners. Like, it's this rapid evolution. And in these groups, what's amazing is it's attracting these amazing people, coaches and athletes, who are now contributing to how do we train these things? How do we apply this? Blah, blah, blah. How do we apply it to tennis? Oh, that's how we apply it to tennis, right? So we're aggregating a tremendous amount of information, and Facebook is just such an easy medium because I can shoot a video on my iPhone, I can hit upload, and in 40 seconds it's up there. It's not like a website where you're
how do they get on that group then?
So you just look up Pioneers of Pulsing on
Pioneers
Facebook,
of Pulsing.
Pioneers of Pulsing, and WeckMethod Inner Circle Inside Triangle. So WeckMethod Inner Circle and Pioneers of Pulsing. I will consolidate those, and I will take the information and build like an off Facebook platform because I use Facebook all the time, but there's a ton of people who don't use Facebook.
Yeah.
And the young people don't use Facebook. They use Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm old and I use Facebook, but because for me it's just so easy.
Yeah.
And you can light the fire that spreads the globe if the fire never goes out. So all you need to do is one match, and if it never goes out, then it burns forever, right? And it goes everywhere. And that's what the pulsars are. And in the Facebook groups is where I've been able to to gather a group of people to create a critical mass right now where this is inevitable now.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So you either know it and do it now, or you know it and do it later, or you don't know it and you do it later. Like, there's only a few options.
Okay, so we're going to just do like 5 minutes of quick questions just to finish off then,
Yes.
David. So first question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow. Okay, so here's one just off the top. Life is a marathon, not a sprint, but you gotta sprint at times in a marathon. Okay, and it's a marathon that doesn't require you to run. So if the bus leaves at 11 o'clock and you're gonna get there at 11:01, you run your ass off to get there before 11 so you can get on the bus and go without working.
Right.
But it's a marathon, so get on the bus and relax on the bus and keep going, right? But it's a marathon, so don't burn yourself out, but know when to run real fast.
Right.
So life's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay. What's your process for making important business decisions?
Ooh, that's it. Surround yourself with great people who are smarter than you in departments or areas where you don't have the expertise. That's going to be critically important. Have your inner circle people you trust implicitly, who you feel can give you the best counsel, right? And that may be family, it may be friends, it may be alumni, it may be business mentoring groups or whatever. You got to find people who you can go to who are going to give you advice that is useful, right? So and then trust your gut, right? You could sign a ironclad deal with a thief, and it wasn't worth it, right? So, and lawsuits are expensive, trust me. I know, the lawsuits are, even if you're right, it still sucks.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite bang for buck exercise?
Oh, it's compression, coil, pulse, WeckMethod deadlift. So if I had to pick, I would say that the coiling is probably your most important bang for buck exercise, the spinal engine. Because it'll help you pack and brace your core for greater strength because you're getting each side, and it'll give you the rotational power and the balance. So that's the most important. Pulsing goes hand in hand with the coil.
Right.
And then I would say compression is super special, and it provides a stimulus and a result that you can't get any other way. So I sort of don't want to do without that. And then if I had to pick one strength exercise, it'd be WeckMethod 45 deadlift.
Okay.
So it's sort of, I'm cheating on the answer,
Okay. So how do you unwind? You sound like you're pretty full on most of the time.
Okay, so how I unwind is I lay in bed and I look at YouTube. Right. So seriously, I don't even have TV. I don't care about TV. And I'm going to share some funny stuff because it's changed, because it has to change, but I'm intense. So for 8-month period, I have 4 Ben & Jerry containers every day for 8 months until my cholesterol got so bad and my fingers started tingling from pre-diabetic. So I was forced to stop. But I would end my day, get home at about 10:30 at night, because I tuck my kids in over at my ex-wife's house, and I get home at 10 o'clock or so, and I would just get my ice cream, lay down in bed, and just watch YouTube and just eat my ice cream. And I like to unwind with about 2 hours of YouTube.
What are you watching?
Everything from freaking conspiracy theories to running stuff, studying Lomachenko's movement, whatever, some comedian, whatever, car crashes, it's just something.
Just going down a bit of a rabbit hole from.
It's whatever happens to present itself and whatever I happen to be curious about. Right. So, and I just love it. And then I need to Google stuff. It's Google and YouTube are my main things.
Yeah.
Because I just love curiosity.
Right.
I love to learn. Yeah. So that's how I sort of unwind, and then sort of wake up and do it again.
So what's your next big personal, professional goal that you've got on your list?
To basically turn Bosu Fitness into a very important, influential, and epic company.
Right.
So WeckMethod is sort of a subsidiary of Bosu Fitness, right? So Bosu Fitness is we will be an apparel company. We will be a brick and mortar training facility company with childcare, nutrition, outfitting. I want to colonize Mars and put a Bosu logo on it, all right? So basically, the pulsing changes the game, and it's an athletic necessity. And the proprietary, IP on it will be ironclad because it's so specific. It's a method, not just a product. And that's going to be the game changer. You won't be able to not do it.
Right.
And now I know how to make shoes. I know that others don't know how to make shoes because I have such a problem finding shoes. I know how to make shoes because I understand the biomechanics differently than anybody else in the world. And I've gone off the deep end 3 times, which I didn't get into, but that's sort of that. So I'm not going to tell anybody how to make shoes. I'm not going to patent shoes until I have the wherewithal to make my shoes.
Right.
I know how to design the clothing to have the cuts and the tensions where I want it to be. And then with the biometrics and all the sensors and all that stuff, like I'm going to be able to outfit you superior to anybody else on the planet.
Right.
I went to the Dick's Sporting Goods stores and I bought a pair of, I won't mention the brand, but I was buying NFL gloves because I'm going to put pulsers in them, proprietary, right? Why would you use any others than the ones that make you faster? But I bought a very high profile brand that costs, more money than the other brand here. And the way that they had it fastening and the way that they had this thing, it was actually biomechanically counterproductive, the stitch and cut of this glove from a brand that we all know, one of the biggies, and they make a hand glove for playing football that actually prevents you or is counterproductive for you playing football better.
Right.
And they don't have a clue. They're a fashion company. Go buy a pair of Nikes, and then 6 months from now, go buy that same pair of Nikes. They don't exist because it's fashion.
Right.
And I ain't gonna be fashion. Well, I'm gonna be fashionable, but we're gonna be functional.
Right.
So anyway, I got huge plans.
That's some big plans.
Oh, my plans couldn't be bigger. Literally couldn't be bigger.
And then the final question then, so escape your limits is about overcoming what you've been told to believe is impossible and making it possible. What would be one of your most sort of memorable examples of escaping your own personal limits?
That is such a powerful question. I have one event that is very pivotal in my life that is sort of it's indicative of sort of the model from which I live my life. I broke my right arm playing football when I was 16 years old. So I made a tackle in a game and I broke the olecranon process off of the ulna. And so the bone came off. And the surgeon at the time didn't know what he was doing. It was suburban New Jersey. He'd never done that operation before, and he tried to wire the fractured bone fragment back to the bone. It was a bad idea. You're supposed to get rid of the piece of drywall that the picture fell from and not try to put that piece of drywall back in. So he did a mangled operation, and there was all this wiring in there, and it weakened the triceps tendon. So when I got out of the cast, the triceps tendon had a complete rupture. So now I have this big piece of wire, this big bone fragment, and now no triceps tendon. And not knowing any better, he was the guy who did the second operation that, drilled the hole, sutured it back on, right? Didn't set it, so I can't straighten it. I lost like most of the triceps muscle. I can't hold 40 pounds over my head, right? I got to do all that. And so I was told, dude, you're not going to be able to play football. Because I literally in high school, I couldn't do that with my arm. I was so weak, I couldn't do that. And I can't straighten it. So how the hell are you going to play football? Well, you tape it here, you tape it here, you cross-hatch the tape here, and then you tape it here and you tape it here, and nobody's going to bend it past here. Okay, now, I can't bring it here, but I can do this, right? So I can play football. So that was sort of overcoming a setback that was going to prevent me from doing what I loved to do most. Can I swear?
Yeah, if you want.
Fuck it, I'm going to find a way, right? fuck it, I am finding a way. Ain't nobody gonna hold me back from playing football. Boom, right? So that's the kind of thing where it's like, I tell my kids, there's two things you guarantee. You guarantee change. That's the constant, is change. And you guarantee to have problems. So when you deal with a problem, solve the fucking problem. Right?
Yeah.
Look, I tell my son, like, it's a game, man. It's a game. Like, if you want to do what you want to do, figure out how to do the stuff you don't want to do really fast, really well. Learn to speed read so you can do your homework fast. Like, come on, there's an app on the phone. You learn to speed read, now you can read your sign and you do a thing, right? Just figure it out so you can do what you want to do. Because you got to do shit you don't want to do, right? So just make it like, be an avatar, right? Step back, put yourself on puppet strings, and dance better. You know what I mean? Like, don't get so caught up in this. Just boom, boom, boom. All right, figure it out. Solution, results. Who cares about the input? You take it back to survival and primitive man. If you don't catch the deer, well, nobody lives anymore, right? Doesn't matter you're a nice guy. Doesn't matter that you do this or that, right? You didn't bring home the bacon. Nobody's going to make it through the winter. Who cares, right? So there's a cold, hard reality, harsh that we live in where it's about the results. And we have a wussification happening where every kid's going to get the medal, right? And nobody's going to strike out and da-da-da-da, right? You know, so you create this false reality where kids aren't, skinning their knee anymore. And God forbid this and that, right? So now nobody's prepared to deal with reality. And not nobody, but it's just, you have this thing where it's, you got to eat a little bit of dirt. Because if you raised in a bubble, well now, the flu's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's a certain toughening up, deal with it, figure out how to fix it, or get over it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's overcoming, escaping your limits, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's some great advice.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've learned a huge amount today. I've been here all afternoon, and
Beautiful.
I feel I've got about a year's worth of new information. So, David, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Good luck with the vision, and let's keep in touch.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.